Good morning. Okay, so we're going to talk about predictions for the Giro D'Italia, and this is just the predictions for the first week. Although I will go out on a limb for those people who are here for the first 30 seconds. That my overall prediction for the Giro is Egan Bernal riding for Team Ineos. The only question mark is, has his back recovered from the injuries from last year? But Ineos must be quite happy with him because they haven't sent a previous Grand Tour winner as a backup. They've sent Pavel Sivakov, a very promising rider who could win in his own right. But that really means that they have good confidence in Bernal. So that's my overall pick for the Giro. But before we go into the predictions for the first week, let's talk about a couple of issues which can be confusing. When commentators talk about time lost, they mean that actually more time has been gained, that the rider has taken a longer time to finish the course. And time gained means that actually less time was used because a shorter amount of time was taken. So it's obvious, though, that you would use such a reverse technology because when you lose time, you're actually losing the race because the race is about the shortest amount of time. And when you gain time, then obviously you're gaining against your competitors. Now, the GC is about not losing time. Now, when Eddy Merckx won the Giro in 1974, he won it by 12 seconds. And after his career was over and he was talking on television, he said that he'd won the Giro by effectively the time it takes to change a wheel. In those days, a front wheel took 10 seconds and a rear wheel took 15 seconds to change. These days, a full bike swap takes 20 seconds, and with disc brakes, it can take 30 seconds to change a wheel. So certainly, you don't want to have a mechanical problem. So evidently, what you don't want to do is to lose time, but you can lose time all the time. At any point through a mechanical failure, especially a mechanical failure 5 to 10 kilometers from the end, that can spell disaster. But it can be quite mundane how you can lose time. You could be in the peloton, coming up to the line with all the other GC contenders, and a slight break occurs on a flat stage, maybe a 3-second gap. And you haven't lost 3 seconds at that point. You have lost the time between the first rider in the first part of the peloton and the first rider after the gap in that peloton, which can be, could be 10 seconds, could be 15 seconds. So it's easier to lose time, and it's very hard to gain time. There are only 2 places where you can reliably expect to gain time, because your competitors, who are similarly specified as yourself, are just gonna not let you gain time on them. So where can you gain time? The time trial. And these days time trials are 20-30 kilometers. They're not 70-80 kilometers or 100 kilometers as they used to be, but still, because it's so technical, a good rider can gain half a minute, maybe 2 minutes on their competitors. The other places you can gain time is on a mountain stage, especially a mountain stage that has a summit finish. There you can also see several minutes go by, but usually the GC competitors will be separated by a few seconds, maybe 10 seconds, half a minute, something like that. Okay. Having got that out of the way, my predictions for the first week. The mountain jersey will be held by a team that is there to enliven the race, such teams as Androni and Bardiani. These will have people in the breakaways, and because they're in the breakaways, they're going to go across the mountains or hills before anyone else, and then they will have, one of them will have the ambition of having the mountains jersey, but it's almost guaranteed that such a person will not have the mountain jersey at the end of the competition. But still, it's good for sponsors to be there on the podium having your photograph taken for a week or two. The points competition, however, will be on from the beginning. Usually the points competition is won by a sprinter, but in the Giro or in the Vuelta, it can sometimes be won by a climber, because the points competition is consistency of finish, how close to the front you are when you finish, and so that's what it determines it. And so certainly the number of flat stages in the first week, a sprinter will be in the jersey. I think it's fairly obvious that Peter Sagan has come to the Giro to win the Male Ciclamino, and so I think that's where you're gonna see it likely to go, but it's by no means guaranteed at this point. The GC, well, no one who wants to win the GC at the end is going to want to be in the Male Rosa in the first week. They will be within a few seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds of the lead, but they want to avoid that as much as possible because first of all, if you're in the Male Rosa, your team has to dictate pace and dictate how the race is run, and that means that they're up in the front and they're taking the wind, and you have to have a very strong team if you want to ride in pink from the start to the end. That's just a guarantee. Secondly, if you're in the Male Rosa, you have to give interviews every day, and you have to do a lot of interviews, and so they'll want to have as much rest as possible, so they're going to avoid it as much as possible. Teams that are likely to win the GC by the end, I think there are maybe 6 teams that are in the running. These teams that have actually won a Grand Tour in the last few years. These are Ineos, Movistar, Team DSM, which was Sunweb before, Astana, Jumbo-Visma, and Team Bike Exchange. Now, they have not necessarily sent their strongest teams. Ineos, for example, the makeup of the team for the Tour de France is a stronger team. There they've got 2 previous Grand Tour winners riding as support for Geraint Thomas. So that's a pretty hefty team, I'd say. But they've sent very decent teams. These are very competent teams. And so any one of those teams could win, depending on how things go. As I said before, Bernal is the top favourite, and with a question mark on his back. I think Jai Hindley and Hugh Carthy. Jai came second by just a few seconds last year, and he was riding as support. This year he's riding as leading his team, so he won't be in a position of being forced to lose time as he would have been last year, and so he could win. Hugh Carthy came third at the Vuelta, so maybe he's rising, and so we could see an even better performance from him. I think a podium for Hugh Carthy is possible. And then there are the wild cards. Remco Evenepoel, he had a huge accident at the Lombardia last year. He's been off the bike and on the bike and off the bike again this year. But he's a superb rider, and so I don't think you can count him out. But I really don't know what his fitness will be like, having been off the bike for so long. So I would have said possibly a win or a podium. He's never run rode a Grand Tour before, but you know, he's a very competent rider. So, but with the accident last year, I don't know where he's going to be. George Bennett, he's riding for Jumbo-Visma. Now, Jumbo haven't sent their strongest team. They've sent a strong team, but not their strongest team. And so I think that suggests to me that they're giving George his opportunity to ride as a team leader, but they're keeping the team. They're keeping the team as strong as possible for the Tour de France. Simon Yates, I like the way Simon rides, but he cracked quite spectacularly in 2018. He's won the Vuelta, so he's got what it takes to win a Grand Tour. He's motivated, and I would have thought that by now the team would have sorted out what caused him to crack back in the day. So he's a strong possibility. Now all of this is dependent upon the course, and you know, the first week is often a winnowing out where accidents occur. There are bunch sprints, and people can be out of the Tour, you know, pretty quickly. But I think if they're all there by the last week, then we should see a very entertaining a Giro. Now, a couple of other things, and that is, I suppose the big question is Vincenzo Nibili. Now, Trek, I've only listed 7 riders, but the spot at 211, number 211, isn't listed as Vincenzo Nibili. He's had a crash during training, his wrist is broken, he's got some carbon fiber to fix it up. When I checked Pro Cycling stats recently, his name wasn't there, but I think he wants to ride. Back in the day, people used to ride with broken bones, but the medicos won't let you ride these days if you've got a broken bone. So it will really depend. They could be holding him back until the very last, his name back until the very last minute. So, any other predictions? Well, Diego Ulissi, he's almost certain to win a stage, so keep an eye out on him. And I think that's pretty much it for my crystal ball for the first week, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Arrivederci.